thrilled and honored to welcome my dear friend, Cantor Arianne Brown, who is joining us from the East Coast today. So I say good afternoon to Cantor Brown, who is joining us all the way from the nation's capital, from Washington, D.C. Good morning and good afternoon, Ari. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Marcus. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone who is here with us. It's really, I was so happy to receive your invitation. It's so lovely to be a part of a Sinai Temple program again.
I know.
So,
It's so great to have you here. Everyone who is watching here from Sinai Temple, I'm sure knows, but you were a invaluable part of our clergy team and our Sinai Temple community for, I believe it was 6 years. And we had
it
a
was
little
six
tiny bit
years.
of overlap in 2012. We were able to participate in a special program together. But for those who do not know, or who are not from Sinai Temple, because we could be watching this, who knows, could be a year, couple years from now on YouTube. Cantor Arianne Brown served Sinai Temple as one of our cantors from 2006 through 2012. So I would love to hear a little bit about yourself, especially for those of you out there who aren't familiar with your background. Maybe how did you become a cantor? How did you become interested in music? You are an authority on Jewish music, on Yiddish music. You're a wonderful person. There's so many things that I want to know about you.
Oh, thank you, Marcus. I also have so many compliments that I could send your way because you too are just doing a wonderful job in the cantorate and are a leader. And so nice to get to do something together,
Thank you.
especially in these times. It's
Yes. Amen.
it's lovely to find ways to collaborate. So I grew up in South Jersey. That seems relevant on the East Coast. On the West Coast, I could just say I grew up in New Jersey, by the beach, at the shore, Bethel Synagogue. And as a young girl, I started to attend Hebrew school at the age of 8. There was a requirement to go to a certain number of Shabbat morning services. And I could tell you that the very first time I went, my mom dropped me off. It was no Sinai Temple. It was no Addis Israel. It was not a large place, but I managed to get lost in the hallway and didn't know where to go. And the cantor, Mitchell Martin, who became my mentor, he found me in the hallway. I knew him because he taught us songs in Hebrew school. He found me quite upset, brought me to the sanctuary, set me up. Um, I remember being mesmerized and thinking, oh, a cantor does this too. It wasn't just singing songs with us at the piano. And there was something about just listening to him, Davin, listening to it all that it really captivated me. And then at the end of the service, he had the children come up on the bima and asked who wanted to sing Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. I volunteered. I was not one of the regulars, so he said, "Do you know it?" And I said, "Yeah, you taught it to us."
Wow.
Um, and from that Shabbat on, I went home. I told my mom, I'm going to services every week, and I'm going to be a cantor.
Wow. So
And
at a
she said,
young age, you were so positively inspired by your own cantor that it kind of set you on this life journey. So was there a separate draw to maybe secular music or pop music or musical theater music, or for you was the entrance into the love of music through Judaism?
That's a great question. I'd be curious to hear from you on it too.
Definitely.
So my entrance to singing was absolutely through services. And I did go every week after that. And Kenner Martin had me. He'd point to different kids to sing different solos, and I would be there at the ready for that finger to sing, and I loved it, and that was how it started. And people would tell my mom, she's sounding good. You should get her voice lessons.
Mhm.
And she said, well, you know what? If she still loves it in 2 years, when she's 10, we'll look into it. And I remember when that time came, and I started taking lessons with Sal Dupree. You may know the Duprees from the 60s, I believe. See the pyramids along the Nile. Well, that was Sal Dupree, and he had a performing arts studio that was known as the premier place for theater and singing in the arts in South Jersey. And I auditioned for him. And he was an amazing teacher and really prepared his students by being very honest and very harsh. And he said, "Well, if you're going to practice and you're going to prepare, I'll take you on. Otherwise, don't waste my time or your parents' money." So from then, being a part of Sal's studio led to musical theater and to shows and shows at the casinos that he put on extravaganzas with the young people of that area.
You were
Um,
performing in casinos.
yes, but I mean,
Wow.
it was like he would sign it out for the day, and but
Oh God.
we would get to be on that huge showroom stage, the showroom, not the
Yeah,
not the other parts of the
I'm
casino.
imagining Cantor, Arianne Brown, like, at the Bellagio Hotel. I'm just trying to put two and two together. So.
Well, somehow he made it work that there would be these extravaganzas with 100 children performing in the showroom
That's beautiful.
with these very appropriate shows for children. So so I got into musical theater that way, into pop and Broadway and acting and presentation.
It's so beautiful that you say that the synagogue in your Cantor was that door that opened up the whole new world of music for you too. And so briefly for me as well, it was the same thing too. I always loved music. I mean, one of my first memories was sitting on my grandmother's lap when I was a toddler, and she had an old two manual organ with one of those,
Oh,
one
wow.
octave foot pedals, and she would play songs on it and do all of the different, settings on the organ, and loved singing. She was always singing. My grandpa was always singing. My parents not so musical, so maybe skipped a generation too. But once I started in my elementary school, so Jewish day school, choir, so in third grade, really having that opportunity to be part of a musical group, a musical chorus, and to really have that love for Jewish music because we started singing Jewish songs, and then the kids who were, I guess, a little bit more involved or into it or interested were invited to be part of our Cantors Meshorim group, so a little group of singers who would help lead services on Friday night. So for me, a very similar story to you of being drawn into that musical world, and then from there was the same thing. Like I didn't actually take lessons until voice lessons until high school, but was always involved in musicals, in the school play and school choir, and just for me that was always a really big part of it. It opens
Absolutely.
doors. And who knows how many people that we are working with today, our young students, will end up becoming professional musicians, cantors. Um, I mean, for me, I'm about in my 10th year of being a cantor, so I'm just now starting to do B'nai Mitzvah of younger siblings and their younger siblings too. I've yet to do a wedding of a former bar bat mitzvah student, although that might be coming up in the next few years based on age. But I'm wondering if you've had any of those experiences too. I know you're also at kind of at the beginning of the career. We're at about the same age range.
Yes. So I definitely have had it is very special when you get to do those life cycle events multiple times with families and really get to be a part of those special occasions, not just once, but twice or three times. I certainly, there have been lots of siblings. I don't know. No, I don't think I have officiated at a student's wedding. Maybe if any of those LA kids at those time are now maybe that age. So if any move to DC, I'd be happy to join you here.
Yeah.
Um, but certainly there have been life cycle events, happy, sad, that make you feel connected to families in different ways throughout their lives.
Absolutely. So I would love to hear maybe a few of your Sinai Temple memories. The time that you spent over here on the best coast, the West Coast. Sorry, I
Oh.
should say that. We could talk about that, but at Sinai Temple, for those who are joining from outside of the LA area, we're the largest conservative synagogue on the West Coast, and we're located in West LA, basically right next to UCLA, if you're familiar with the LA basin.
I'd love to share some. I have so many great Sinai memories. I thought of four. Um, and so I have to first, I just have to talk about the music and about Cantor Joe Goll, who recruited me when I was in cantorial school. I would never have thought about moving across the country to the West or the Best Coast, no matter how great it is. I am an East Coast girl and my family's here. So, without his encouragement and taking me under his wing in that way, that whole experience wouldn't have happened for me. And I'm so grateful to have spent those years at Sinai in LA. So, along with that, there was just an overall, this is not a one memory, but the music that we made together, the duets, having Ariel on the organ. There is no one who plays like him. And just the experience of making music together, coming in on Shabbat morning and rehearsing in the quartet. And also, I would say that coming from the East Coast, especially, now I've been here for 8 years, that was 6 years, that's already a while ago. East Coast conservative Judaism had not progressed as much as West Coast as far as wanting to integrate instrumentation into services. So whereas you, I imagine, coming from Stephen S. Wise, that's what you grew up with. But for me, I had not been as used to having accompaniment during services and the integration of bands and instruments. And so when I got there, I felt like it was Musaf, the Broadway musical.
Yes.
And, just the musical experiences throughout were certainly a highlight.
Wow. And I don't know if Cantor Goll ever said this to you directly, but we've had many conversations. He's also a dear friend and a mentor of mine too. But he said to me, if he didn't find you, he's not sure if he would have had a Chazan Sheni. He found something so special in who you were as a person and your musical talents and what you brought to the table that when he saw you, he knew immediately that you were the person to for the job.
Thank you. Thank you for relating that. I appreciate it. That's very kind.
And one thing that I would love to share, which I actually kind of surprised Ari about, is that in 2012, when we had a brief overlap, we shared a concert together. And
right. It was your welcome concert.
Yes, it was a
and
welcome
I was
concert.
Just finishing my maternity leave. So, or maybe
That's right.
still on it.
This was all like in that summer of 2012. I remember it so vividly. I was starting Sinai Temple on July 1st. I was ending Stephen Weiss on June 30th, and then I was getting married on August 9th. So it was a very, very crazy summer. As a quick aside, actually, when Rachel and I were on our honeymoon, it was the three of us. It was Rachel, me, and the High Holiday books. Brought them all with all of the music to learn a whole new conservative liturgy. I mean, I learned about conservative liturgy obviously in cantorial school, but being in a Reformed synagogue, it was a little bit of a little bit of a change, a little bit of a switch. So that was quite the honeymoon to remember.
That's a great Cantor story.
Just the three of us. So in either case, at this wonderful concert, and I think it was Jerry who sent me an email when he heard that we were going to be in an interview together. He's like, "You need to do the Mozart duet with Cantor Arianne Brown. I want to hear the two of you sing this together." And guess what? We did. We sang it 8 years ago. So this is the duet from Mozart's 1787 opera Don Giovanni, La ci darem la mano. And let me know if the volume's okay. Just tell me if it needs to be higher or lower.
La ci darem la mano, la mi dirai di sì. Vedi non è lontano, partiam ben mio da qui.
Vorrei e non vorrei, mi trema un poco il cor, felice versarei, ma può burlarmi ancor, ma può burlarmi
mio bel diletto,
mi fa pietà masetto,
io cangerò tua sorte.
questo non so più forte, non so più forte, non so più forte.
Vieni, vieni, lasci daremi la mano.
Vorrei e non vorrei,
Non mi dirai di sì.
mi trema un poco il cuore.
Partiamo il mio da qui.
Può burlarmi
Vieni, mio
ancora.
bel diletto, io cangerò tua sorte.
Non so più forte, non so più forte, non so più forte.
Andiamo, andiamo. Andiamo, andiamo, mio bene, a ristorar le pene d'un innocente amor. Andiamo, andiamo, mio bene, a ristorar le pene d'un innocente amor. Andiamo. Andiamo, andiamo, mio bene, andiamo, le pene a ristorare tu, innocente amor.
Wow.
Well, that was fun to hear that after so many years.
I looked for it because I remember that we did that 8 years ago, and honestly, I probably have not heard that recording since right after that concert. So what a treat to hear that too, and to be able to perform that with you. And that was Ariel Cohen on the piano, not quite the organ,
Of course.
but of course Ariel Cohen on the piano there, and that was so much fun.
That was a lot of fun.
It's always a weird thing to be listening to yourself singing, because then you get into the mind of like, oh, I did it this way and that way, and especially when you hear something that's a little bit older, like I at least personally for me, I was almost a little bit of a different vocal type back then. I had just, I guess, become a tenor. I sang actually bass 2 in choir in college.
Bass 2, really?
I was the
So
lowest in the choir, but basically once I found a new voice teacher and started really studying the pedagogy and the science and sensation, determined that I was actually a lyrical tenor. So that journey, I guess, up the musical staff, turning up the staff from bass 2 to being a tenor, that's I could hear in my voice that I was still having a little bit of those baritone tendencies, which is fascinating. But just to listen to your voice in the past is just it's always a trip for me, and so I'm wondering if you have any sort of similarities when you're listening to recordings.
I do, sure. I think about what sounds different, what I was thinking at the time, what I was going, what was happening in my life at the time. So yes, I think there are probably I could probably place the year if I listened to myself in a way an outside ear wouldn't be able to.
And that's actually what we are, we are supposed to do as cantors and also as shlichei tzibur, is that to be able to place a congregation, a community member in a specific time on a specific calendar day. For example, with Nusach, when you're saying that, when you listen to your voice and a certain, timbre or whatever it is, we can do the same thing, that if you walk into a service on Friday night, you should be able to hear those melodies unique to that service to know to place you in that right time too. So that's interesting how we have that connection with musicality, and also the connection to Nusach too.
That was an interesting transition to that. And, I think we all love the way Nusach functions. We love to talk about it. We love that we have this tradition that roots us to time and place and time of day and time of year, and that can hopefully bring us to those memories and that bank of memories no matter how we're experiencing that music.
Exactly. So we actually have had a question from our dear friend Rochelle Marcus. Rochelle was actually on.
Oh, hi,
I first,
Rochelle.
Hi Rochelle. I first met Rochelle because she was on the committee to create that concert that I was just referencing. So she was actually one of the first people that I met from Sinai Temple. She's absolutely amazing. So she asks, and this is a great transition because I wanted to get into this too. How did you get into klezmer, and what spurred your love of Yiddish?
Sure, great question. I would say that I really got into Yiddish theater more than klezmer itself, though they are well connected. Um, I got into Yiddish theater for a few reasons. One is that, as we were talking about earlier, I developed this love of the stage and Broadway and performing in shows. And, that was always something that was separate from singing in synagogue for me. I always wanted to become a cantor. And I loved getting to perform in plays and shows when I had the opportunity. And it wasn't until I moved to New York City that I realized that there was a way those two could merge perfectly. And that was the Yiddish theater. So it's actually this, if I get into the story, it's somewhat connected to LA and the LA Cantor scene. I mean, I guess we're in conversation, so
We
I
are in
guess we have to talk.
conversation. It's up to us.
Okay.
We can go wherever we want.
Okay, go like this if I need to speed up the story, Marcus.
Go for it.
Okay. As a student at JTS, I had once written a letter to Cantor Chaim Frankel at Kehilat Israel in Pacific Palisades. I wrote him a letter because I was so moved by his High Holiday recording and how gorgeous the music was. It just really touched me. He wrote back a beautiful letter. We met on the elevators at JTS when he was in for some Cantors convention or meeting. And he asked if I was coming to the upcoming convention in LA. The year
This
must
must
have
have
been
been, I think, was it
2004?
2001?
1, 3?
2001.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry for all the cantors who were there.
Makes sense. Somewhere around there. And I said, no, it's a little too far. I don't think I can make it. And he said, how about if I sponsor you as a student? And that was just the greatest gift. And then because I was already going, a week when it got close at the last minute, Neil Levin, our professor, said, I heard you going. We're putting on a program for the Milken Archive of American Jewish Music. It is a program on Yiddish theater. I don't know if you can do it, but I want to give you a chance. And I said, just give it to me. I want to. So I learned this whole duet medley to do with Cantor Simon Spiro. It was such an opportunity to be able to, as a student, to sing at a Cantor's convention. And I loved what we did. I just loved it. And I think you'll agree with me that it's such a special chevra, such an encouraging group of people that so many ask me about how'd you get in Yiddish theater? And I said, well, this is about it.
Wow.
But
And
when I came back to...
Sorry, I remember
No, go ahead.
That it may not have been, but I remember when we were in Poland for that very special mission that the Cantors Assembly created. Did you sing that same duet with Cantor Spiro in that special theater?
I believe we did, or a portion of it.
A portion of it. And I
Yeah.
wish I knew the story, but it was some sort of special Yiddish theater that was there too, one of the last surviving ones. And it was,
Yeah.
God, it was...
We got to put on a show at the Ida Kaminska
Yes, the Ida Kaminska
State Theater in Warsaw. I mean,
more memories too. Wow. So
Yeah.
I actually have a recording of you singing a wonderful Yiddish song. So I'm wondering if you could set that up for us. And
sure. Well, I think I set it up that I think the setup is actually there.
Great.
But it is a fun one, all about the Jewish immigrant experience in New York.
Here we go.
My cousin, the greenhorn, just arrived in New York City. She's so pretty with rosy cheeks and a bright smile. She doesn't talk, she sings. She doesn't walk, she dances. I found a job for her with my next door neighbor in a millinery storge. She was so excited. Long live the Golden Land! Well, after some time away, I saw my cousin again. She had dark lines under her eyes. Those bright cheeks were sunken in. When I asked her how she's doing, she said that she'd lived paydays jahrelang, from payday to payday, and she'd had it. Columbus's land should burn.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Stunning. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Well, that's a fun one. So
that is definitely a fun one.
How can you not enjoy Tigrina Kuzina?
So I would love to. By the way, a couple of just happy comments. What a surprise to see Cantor Brown here again. I learned Haftarah trope from her videos. They are great.
Thanks.
Your Haftarah videos are great. Your everything trope, and then also connected to that. How did you come up with those fantastic hand gestures for teaching trope and Haftarah that we still use at Sinai Temple?
Well, that is a great Sinai Temple story because I taught 1 million trope classes at Sinai Temple. So when you do things a lot of times with a lot of students, it gives you the opportunity to really hone your skills and find out what works and develop the best practices. So there's something called chironomy, which are these small symbols that a gabbai would do to help a Torah reader along. And just when I started teaching trope in terms of a big class, I blew up these big trope posters to use and just thought that just from best practices of education, that it's good to use our bodies and it's good for kids to be physical and to move and to get their energy into what they're doing. Kids and grown-ups too. So I just started doing these signs that Very good.
I've
So I
studied.
just started doing this, and sometimes I'd let the classes make them up with me. We'd look at a Gershayim, and we'd make that up, and they'd laugh at going sideways. So I really developed it in those classes at Sinai Akiba and in the religious school classes. And it became a really fun way for the kids to learn and an effective way for them to learn. And it was actually when since so much of 2012 is in this conversation, when I knew I was coming to DC, I had this feeling like, oh, how will I leave behind this method? So I filmed that that series, the first series, the Torah trope series, Tricks of the Trope. I filmed in one of the classrooms at Sinai to just have something that I could leave and use for anyone who wanted to learn it. Some other cantors were asking about the method. So that was that. And it wasn't until I always had in mind that I need to do the Haftarah version. I finally did
Didn't that
that
just come
last
out?
year.
I love it.
Yeah,
I saw that. I was like,
just-
yeah, she's doing Haftarah trope. And I loved it so
yes.
much. Oh,
The Haftarah version is yes, we put out on the Addis site last year, and so
and now
feel free to
we can
use it.
also,
Although I saw that you did a Tricks of the Trope video
yes,
too.
exactly. And what I wanted to say about trope is that it's so funny because when you listen to it, you're like, wait, isn't that a conservative cantor chanting the trope system? Why does it sound different than how my conservative synagogue does it? And this just goes into the conversation of, even though you have the same symbols and oftentimes the same basis of the melody, every single synagogue can have their own way of singing it. Like one or two notes are a little bit different, and then, I mean, especially when you get into like highlighting the trope groups, all the colors can be very different too. It's so funny when you try and get a universal tool for teaching the Jewish community, let alone the conservative Jewish community, the way to do it. There's so many different variations.
It's true. It's true. And now, sometimes with those variations, of course, when I recorded the first in LA, I now, I give it to my students and say the Sof Pasuk is a little different, but it's fine if you do what we do in class or that one. It's all correct.
And then you add in the variation of how you sing Ve'ahavta and try and put that on top of the trope, because this is a whole other conversation. That's
a whole other one.
But
it might be more fun for us than others.
It could be. So you were saying, and this is a really good trend. These transitions are so smooth. You can't even plan this. Can't rehearse it.
Look at that.
Amazing. Talking about your move to Washington, D.C. So you're moving to the nation's capital. You're in the conservative synagogue in the nation's capital. Have you seen anyone famous? Have you seen any politicians? Like, what is it like to be in the nation's capital? I really want to know.
Sure, I have. I have to say that as far as being in Addis, Israel, in the nation's capital, it's really, the congregation really tries to make it a spiritual home and not a place to get bogged down in the, in political arguments or any of that. So I think of it more as, as a hopefully a religious haven within the nation's capital. But yes, there are a number of people who will see. Sometimes there are times someone will walk in or attend a service or a funeral, and I'll think I know that face from the news. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg comes on Kol Nidre night.
Okay, there you go. That's a name.
That's special. She has her Makom Kavua, her special spot with her friends that, I can just picture her right there off to the side.
Do they have security? Do they do famous people have like bodyguards, or how does that work?
Oh yeah, they do. And I will have a story with that soon too. We were able to host in 2013 or 14, President Obama's address to the Jewish community on Jewish Heritage Month. So that may have been the first time in recent times that that Addis geared up for a very huge, important government visit. Our history does tell us that Ulysses S. Grant also visited Addis back in the 1870s.
Okay.
But for this, our operations team had to really work very hard, and the whole control of the building goes over to the government. So everything else has to close down, and there's a lot of safety protocols, and makes it very tricky for running a gun and the children who need to get picked up. But our team made it work, and that was an amazing event for the congregation. And then we also were honored to host the nation's memorial service when Shimon Peres passed away. So we hosted that, and that comes with a good story. Vice President Biden and Secretary of State Albright were there in our front row, so that too was very, very special. Now we found out that we would indeed be the host of that on probably like Erev Rosh Hashanah, and we needed to pull this together very quickly for about 2 days after Rosh Hashanah, something like that. Not the days in between where you want to be planning another big event.
No.
So right after Rosh Hashanah, everything was buzzing and happening, and our executive director called and said, "You'll sing the El Malei Rachamim." What an honor. And he said, and also they want a children's choir. Oh, okay, great. We weren't up and running with any big rehearsals for the year yet, but I'm sure you also have the students, the kids that have sung with you throughout the years. So, quickly got the details together, put out the call. My oldest son, who is now 8, Yona was 4.
Yona's 8?
And
oh my goodness.
He's 8, yeah.
I
really wanted him to be a part of it. So I should have made it about age 8 and up, but I included some kids who were like 4, 5, so he wouldn't be the only one I put in there. So got a big group together quickly, merged 2 songs that they already knew and created a recording and said, practice this. We were only going to have a half an hour together in the sanctuary. And then about the day before, our executive director, who is wonderful, David Polanski, calls and said, there's a little bit of a problem. Children's choirs cannot sing in in a certain proximity to former vice presidents. It's a safety concern.
Interesting.
Right? You'd never think of it. You'd never know.
They think of everything. They think of everything.
So we need to put them in the balcony. So now I've got 50 kids or so, I don't know. They've never sung as one group. Half of them are 4 and 5 years old. And they need to sing from the balcony. We need to do a sound setup on the balcony. I also was 7 months pregnant. Just to add another layer of needing to take care of myself and get to Yom Kippur. So we made it happen the day of, in the 30 minutes that I had with this group. There was secret service, a lot of people who looked very official with earphones in the sanctuary. And I was trying to do this rehearsal and there was just too much going on. So I had to stop and say, if you are not singing in this piece, I need you to not use your voice for the next 25 minutes, please. And it worked.
It worked. And you sent me a clip. I would love to share it.
Sure.
Okay, let's see how this works. This miraculous event that you were able to put together. Okay.
Shalom Aleinu, Ya'akol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Ya'akol Yisrael. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael.
We'll see soon how far away those kids were.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai.
It goes up.
Avinu Chai.
There we go.
Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od
Beautiful.
So one of those heads that barely could get past the bar on the balcony, that was mine.
That was wow, and that is not ideal to be conducting a choir from a different level and from like 100 feet away, is it?
No, which was why I
No.
just tried to be really big and
Big
really
movements, big
energetic to keep
gestures.
them at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's a great story and memory, and one of those fun things that they got to participate in.
Wonderful. Let's see. Okay, here's a nice aside. I'm sure you remember Chloe Levian, who's a wonderful member of our community. I know you guys
Of
have a
course I
special
do,
relationship.
dear Chloe.
And Chloe asks, Cantor Ari, how did you learn Farsi?
من میتونم یک کمی فارسی صحبت کنم. I do not get to practice anymore. Actually, Marcus, that was one of the other things I wanted to say, that I just another highlight of the Sinai experience was really the Persian community. And I miss that, just that beautiful culture. So Chloe, I just wanted to understand what everyone was saying around me and what I was hearing, and to be able to say hello to some of the grandparents, some of those, some of those people I'd see at Shabbat right on the aisle waiting for the Torah scroll. Gina Resvanpour gave me lessons.
Gina did. Gina June.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gina June, yeah. And
But
we
you
just did.
have a great just knack for picking up languages too, because your Yiddish is fluent, your Hebrew is fluent, your Farsi is fluent. Is there a special tricks of the language that you have,
That's
or
so funny.
Is it a special
Thank you.
tool, or?
I wouldn't say everything is as fluent as you just described. Definitely not Farsi. I don't know. I enjoy. I think I like memorizing, and I like some sort of connection of ear and memory and that. But I'm sure you too have an ear for languages, as all of us sing in many different languages in our training.
I'm sure you have to have a love of learning.
For sure, yeah. Yes. So I didn't speak that well, but Gina taught me about the 15 most popular conversations, how to get 4 steps in. So that's what I could do at the time, but
That is wonderful.
don't get to practice it now.
Definitely endears you. It really, really does.
Well, thank you.
So I have 2 more recordings that you have to share, and I would love to play both of them. Can we maybe talk about the Unatana Tokef, the Rosenblum, the really wonderful conversation?
Sure. Well, I wanted to choose 2 contrasting things so that you could have a good Cantors and Conversation program, which, by the way, is such a nice idea for a program at this time.
It's so wonderful to be able to collaborate, and part of me is upset because I had a few live concerts planned in the past few months, and those obviously are postponed. But to be able to have different collaborations and to use this time to find the silver linings for collaboration, for music, for programs for different types of services has been absolutely wonderful. And that's my second question for you is how you are working to maybe bridge that gap, because right now it's hard to sing together. It's impossible to sing together unless you do like pre-recording things too. So I would definitely want to hear that, but I do want to hear a little bit of this this Unatana Tokef.
Sure, we'll get to both. So yes, the Untana Tokef is just an example to share from our High Holiday repertoire. There was a lot of the Sinai High Holiday repertoire that I've brought to Addis and that has become beloved. So I thought it would be nice to share something that wasn't, that would be new to your ears.
Wonderful. The Unatana Tokef.
Untana Tokef. קדושת היום, כי הוא נורא ואיום, ובו תינשא מלכותך, וייכון בחסד כיסך, ותשב עליו באמת, ותשב עליו באמת. אמת, כי אתה הוא דיין ומוכיח, ויודע ועד, וחותם וסופר ומונה, ותזכור את כל הנשכחות, ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות, ומאליו יקרא וחותם יד כל אדמות, ובשופר גדול ייתקע, וכל דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפשון, בחילורי אדם יוחזון, ומלאכים יחפשון, בחילורי אדם יוחזון. ויאמרו הנה יום הדין, לפקוד על צבא מרום הדין, כי לא יזכו בעיניך בדין, וכל באי עולם יעברון לפניך, וכל באי עולם יעברון לפניך כבני מרום, כבקרת רועה עדרו, מעביר צומות תחת שבטו. כן תעביר ותספור ותמנה ותבכות נפש כל חי, ותחתוך קצבה לכל בריאה, ותכתוב את גזר דינם. בראש השנה יכתבון, וביום צום כיפור יכתבון.
Stunning.
Thank you. What do you usually use? Do you sing the Hofmann?
We do the Finkelstein Unatana Tokef,
Oh,
and
I
it's
don't
a
think I'm familiar.
It's a big piece, very big piece. Always happy to send you the music.
Sure.
And then we go into the Helfman Uva Shofar. I
Oh,
remember
beautiful.
that's another story. I was thinking on my first year when I first came in, I had an Uva Shofar Gadol that I had learned and I was familiar with too, and I said I want to do this one. And then Ariel Cohen says, well, you should know that for the past 60 years we've always done this Uva Shofar. So I said, Okay, I'm happy to learn that Uva shofar. I don't want to come in as a new cantor and change everything around. So yes, we've been going from the Finkelstein Uva shofar to the Helfman, the Finkelstein Unatana Tokef to the Helfman Uva shofar, and then into
Back to the Finkelstein Baroche, I'm sure. Well, sounds like a beautiful page.
It's a very beautiful page for the liturgy. So that recording that we heard, obviously everyone was in the same room singing at the same time, and this was part of the service. How do we do that in today's world? Because of latency and connections too. Even when we were lip syncing to the Mozart duet, our voices were not in sync, and it's just
We
so
couldn't even
frustrating.
lip sync at
We
the
couldn't
same
even
time.
lip sync together. So, and then you sent me this recording of a collaboration that you did, and I'm hearing singers and instruments at the same time, and it really blew my mind. So I want to know the trade secret here.
Sure, I'll tell you exactly what we did. It is a little sad that we're now at the point where it's just amazing if two people or multiple people can make music at the same time. But that is what it is. So for Erev Shavuot, we did an Erev Shavuot service with all of the clergy and multiple musicians, everyone Zooming from home. And so it was the Revelation Nigun by Joey Weissenberg. We did a pre-recorded track. So first I worked out with the instrumentalists that they made a track using GarageBand. And then we used the program Audacity.
Yep, on PC.
Fortunately, someone on our staff trained herself to mix quickly. So I made a guide track of the vocals, and sent it to everyone who you will see and asked them to sing along. So it would be like we were actually singing together in a service. And then I made them rehearse singing on mute so it would look good.
Aha! There's
Definitely
the
got made fun of for that rehearsal. But I think it worked. I think people thought, either they thought we conquered Zoom, or they figured out that we pre-recorded and sang on mute.
Here is this wonderful track of the Revelation Nigun. Okay. That was so beautiful, and had you not told me, I absolutely would have believed that everyone was singing together, and it was very
good.
miraculous.
Wonderful. How
So that was-
about you? Any favorite service or program or way of connecting via live stream, Zoom, or Facebook Live or YouTube in this time?
In all honesty, all of everything that we're doing, especially like the program that we're doing right now, to be able to connect with my colleagues and to share music, to listen to recordings, and as I've said, it's such a blessing that almost all of us have some sort of professional recording or even live recording on YouTube or somewhere out there on the internet that people can go and access, you know, from just even a few months ago that we basically took for granted that we could be in the same room together making music together too. So I'm so glad that all of us have these recordings that we can access to. But I'm also in awe of all of my colleagues and all of our colleagues who have been able to basically take synagogues online, to be able to stream from our homes, to be able to you know, run programs and services. For our Shabbat services, we have Rabbi Nicole Guzik, by the way. She's here and she's happy. She's so happy to see you. And Rabbi Sherman are in Cohen Chapel. Rabbi Wolpe sometimes is in his home, in his office upstairs. I'm here in my office at home. So that's the real beauty of it, to be able to continue to innovate as we always have done. Well, Cantor Arianne Brown, this has been an absolute honor to have you. So much fun. Thank you for sharing your stories and your music.
Cantor Marcus Feldman, it's been an honor to join you.
Beautiful personality, your spirit. So thank you so much. And
my pleasure. So nice to be with you and to get to talk and make music, listen to music. And really, I send my wishes for everyone at Sinai to just stay healthy. And I'm happy to have connected with you.
So happy to have had you. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom. Bye-bye.